Hi everyone, this is Adam again. So today I'm going to be going over coordinate geometry on the circle. This is going to be the last video in this Leaving Cert Maths series. I may or may not do a junior cert math series. I don't know yet. But also one of the things that I want to do is I want to do a few exam papers. So if now, obviously, this is like the last video. I'm sure many of you would have commented on other videos, but if you would like to comment on this one and say, I would like to see this, now there's no guarantee that I'll do it. This could be the very last video that I ever do. But, if I get around to it, I will do, I do plan on doing more videos. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I do plan on doing more. So, if there's anything in particular you'd like to see, feel free to just write it in the comment section. I might also put my email in there just so people can email me if they want with questions. But yeah, so that's kind of that. So yeah, it's been a long journey. It's taken me ages to get this done. About 7 months, I'd say. But we're here now. So yeah, looking forward to finishing and finally posting these. But yeah, so if you've any requests you'd like me to do, just let me know. Okay, so so today, like I said, we're going to be working with the circle. Okay, so how do we kind of formulate the circle? So if I said, okay, I have a circle here and it has a radius of r, then what will the x and y value have to satisfy? So if I asked you like the y equals x plus 7 line, you'd say, oh, that looks like this. Well, how do you know it looks like that? Because if you plug in these points, they will satisfy this. So what do the points here all satisfy? Well, if we take x and y on the circle, so this is x and this is y, we can simply do Pythagoras and say, well, x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So this is the equation of a circle. Now, very, very important. Is this a function? So again, you can pause the video and think about it. So a long time ago, I did the functions chapter. But yeah, do you think this is a function? The answer is no. Okay, so remember, a function is basically that for every x value, you need one y value. And it's fairly clear here that there's two y values for a certain x value. Okay. All right. So I suppose the very next thing to do is to do a few questions. So this is the formula that we're going to use, okay? So basically it says, find the equation of the following circles. So if it has center 0, 0, so center 0, 0 is just where the kind of radius stems from, okay? So as radius, center 0, 0 and radius length 9, the equation of a circle is just going to be x squared plus y squared equals r squared, which in this case is 81. Okay. The next one, it says the center is 0, 0. The center 0, 0 just means that the left-hand side of the equation is always this. That's all. So we'll do a bit more in a while. If you've done circles before, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, just take it from a word that if it's centered at 0, 0, it looks like this. Okay. Well, obviously, I've shown that. I've assumed that this distance is x and that distance is y. If this wasn't 0, so if this wasn't 0, 0, then this length wouldn't be x and that length wouldn't be y. And it says, and it contains the point 2, 3. So again, it's centered at 0, 0, which basically means that x squared plus y squared equals r squared. And we know 2, 3 satisfies this equation. So that's how I'm going to figure out what r squared is. So plug in. So I get 2 squared plus 3 squared. That's 4 plus 9. That's 13. So the equation is x squared plus y squared equals 13. Where my radius is root 13. Okay? And that's it. Let's do another couple of questions. Yeah, I think I'll just do one more. So it says, so you have a circle here. centered at 0, 0, and it goes through the point A, where A is 7, 24. It says, find the radius length of the circle shown above. So very first thing, figure out what R is. So this is 24, this is 7, that's a right angle. So I can say R squared is going to be 24 squared plus 7 squared. So R is going to be the square root, 24 squared plus 7 squared. R is going to equal 25. I'm pretty sure that's 25. I think it's 7, 24, 25 is another right angle triangle. So the same way that 3, 4, 5 is a nice triangle. This is also one. Because it's 49. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, so that's that. And then it says, hence write its equation in the form x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So it's just x squared plus y squared. R squared is equal to 625. And so that's it. Okay, so there's not much more that needs to be done. Okay, I actually know there is, sorry. So I got the length this way, but also let's just say you have a circle like this, okay? So this is a very important thing that I have to explain, okay? So it's centered at 0, 0, and you have a line that hits it here. So the line hits the circle exactly, okay? Whenever a line hits a circle exactly like this, it means it's tangential, which means these are right angles, okay? So this distance here, R, is the perpendicular distance, okay? So we did that in the last video. So remember, the perpendicular distance is equal to the value of this point, which is 0, 0, on the line, divided by the square root of a squared plus b squared. So in this case, you're plugging in 0, 0, and let's say the equation of the line is 2x minus 3y minus 6 equals 0. Now we can plug it in and say we get the magnitude of minus 6 all over the square root of a squared plus b squared, which is going to be 4 plus 9. So it's going to be 6 over root 13 is equal to the radius. Okay. So hopefully that's all right. That's another thing that they could ask you. So just to be clear on that, okay? Because obviously I want the perpendicular distance from this point to the line that is equal to the radius. So this thing is obviously equal to the perpendicular distance, which is d. So, but d in this case is just r, okay? All right, the next thing to do then is when the circles aren't centered at 0, 0. So what happens if our circle is off over here someplace? And let's say the center is h, k. And again, the radius is r. The equation of this circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So now this bit here has changed a bit, okay? And you might be sitting there and saying, well, where has this minus h and minus k come from? So remember in the functions chapter, again, I have a video on it in case this doesn't make sense, but if you do if you plot x squared, you get this. If you plot x minus 1 to be squared, you get this. So it's been shifted to the right by 1 unit. So if you minus, it goes to the right, okay? So here, what we've done is we've done x minus h. So you're moving to the right by h units, okay? That's how the center is at h. And then you're minusing k, which means it goes up k units, okay? So that's the basic idea of it, all right? And then it says, okay, it could just be something as simple as this. So just find the center of this. So just find the center of this and the radius. So the center is simply 5 minus 3. So it's just the opposite sign of these two things. Okay? And then the radius is just, remember, this is always equal to r squared. So the radius is simply 5. Okay? Another way they can ask you is they say the circle as shown has a diameter and 2 endpoints. So here you have a circle. This is one point, which is 2 minus 3. This is another point, which is 6 minus 8. And this here is the diameter. Then it says, first of all, find the center of the circle. So if this is the diameter, how are we going to find the center of this circle? Okay? So just think about it. And again, pause the video and think about it, because this stuff is important, because I personally find that circles are very, very tricky. Okay? I think they're very hard. There's a lot of things you have to remember. There's a lot of things. So it's like, because they just say, oh, here's 3 formulas. But then there's so many different things they can ask you. It just makes it much harder. Okay? Like in differentiation, you kind of know what you're going to be asked. If you told me there's a differentiation question, there's only like 4 or 5 things that can come up. In circles, they can kind of just do whatever they want. Okay? So it's much harder. So the center, first of all, is going to be the midpoint of this line. Okay? Because obviously, if it's in the diameter, then obviously, if this is a radius and that's a radius, then it's just, the center point is just halfway. So the center point is going to be halfway. So remember, you always take an average of the x values. An average of 2 and 6 is 4. An average of minus 3 and minus 8 is, I think, minus 5.5. So that's the center. Next thing, it says find the radius. So the radius, I just want to figure out what is this length. So if I know what the diameter is, I can simply divide it by 2. So again, this is going to be, it's 4 across and it's 5 down. So the diameter squared is equal to 5 squared plus 4 squared. So the diameter is going to be the square root. 25 plus 16 is 41. So the radius is going to be root 41 over 2. Like so. And then if they ask you to get the equation of a circle, it's going to be x. You minus the center. Okay, so it's minus 4 to be squared plus y. You minus the center, so it's plus 5.5 squared is equal to r squared, which is going to be 41 over 4, which is 10.25. Okay? So that's that. Another thing that they can do is they can just say, okay, it intercepts the x and y axis, okay, or it touches off it, okay? And this is when it can be quite hard, okay? So it says, find the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts of the circle this. So find the x-intercepts. So first of all, let's do the x-intercepts first. So the x-intercepts, so if it hits the x-axis, what does that mean for the y value? That the y value is 0. So plug that in. So it's going to be x plus 3 to be squared plus, it's minus 2 squared, which is 4, is 13. So it's x plus 3 squared equals 9. So x plus 3 is equal to plus or minus 9. So if x plus 3 is equal to plus 9, that means that x is equal to 6. If x plus 3 is equal to minus 9, then x is equal to minus 12. Okay? I'm really sorry. Sorry, here this should be 3, obviously. If you take the square root. So sorry, so this one then... Sorry about that. So this one is then plus 3, so x equals 0. This one is then minus 3, so it's minus 6. So the x-intercepts are 0, 0, and, sorry, minus 6. Minus 6, 0. So those are your x-intercepts. Your y-intercepts now is basically when you plug in x equals 0, and you get 3 squared, which is 9, plus y minus 2 squared equals 13. So y minus 2 squared equals 4. So y minus 2 is going to be plus or minus 2. So if it equals plus 2, this means that y is going to be 4. If it equals minus 2, then y equals 0. So this means x equals 0, y equals 4, and x equals 0, y equals 0. Okay? And so that's it. All right? So hopefully that's all okay. Okay, I might do this one. At least, I'll definitely do one of them. I might do 2, I'm not too sure. Because again, this is one of the ones that I want to do a good few questions because these are very hard. So I'll do this one. It says, find the equation of the circle having the lines x plus 1 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0 as tangents. So if x plus 1 equals 0 is a tangent, and x minus 3 equals 0 is a tangent, that means that x equals minus 1 and x equals 3 are tangents. So if we draw it out, let's do the tangent lines first. So x equals minus 1 is here. X equals 3 would be over here. And basically, I don't know where the circle is, but I'm just going to draw a general one. The circle is someplace here. So first of all, this is at minus 1, this is at 3, so the diameter is 4, which means the radius of the circle is equal to 2. Okay? Also, the center is HK. What's the value of H? Again, take your time to think about it, because this stuff is hard. Okay, so please think about it. Pause the video, have a think. The answer is 1. H equals 1. Okay? So what we have is, the reason it's 1 is because the x value here is obviously in between. So here you have 2. So I just did minus 1 plus 2. And the same thing, you could have done 3 minus 2 to get to the 1 as well. But obviously it's halfway, or the midpoint. So back up here when we said it was the midpoint, there, it's like now we just have tangents here, basically, is kind of what's going on. And then we just go to the midpoint. And the midpoint of minus 1 and 3 is 1. So h is equal to 1. Now, how do we figure out what k is? Here they say, and its center is lying on the y equals 3 line. So that tells you that k simply equals 3. So the center is 1, 3, the radius is 2. So the equation of the circle is going to be x minus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. Like that. Okay? All right, and that's kind of that. I might just do one more quickly. So here it says the center of a circle S is in the second quadrant. The second quadrant is over here, okay? So remember, it's the first, second, third, fourth. So it's quadrant S touches both the x-axis and the y-axis at the point P, Q respectively, and it has a radius length of 5 root 2. Okay? So it touches, which means it doesn't cross. Okay? So it's exactly like this. Okay? And it has a radius length of 5 root 2. Okay, so that's 5 root 2 and that's 5 root 2. So what's the center? What coordinates does the center have? Minus 5 root 2 and 5 root 2. Because obviously this is 5 root 2 and it's minus because it's in the negative direction. This is 5 root 2, so it's up. So it's simply x minus 5 root 2 squared plus y minus 5 root, it should be x plus, because remember it's minus 5 root 2, so it's the opposite. Also, that's quite a bad 5. Minus 5 root 2 equals 5 root 2 squared. And that's the equation of the circle. And so this point is going to be 0, 5 root 2. This point is going to be minus 5 root 2, 0. Okay. Now what they're asking is, they're saying, okay, and find the equation of the circle that contains the point P and Q and has a radius length of 5. So now what you want is, you want the circle that's going to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, which is 25, where 5 root 2, so where this point and this point will both satisfy this equation. Okay? Now, just out of matter of interest, does anybody recognize where the root 2 comes from in here? So again, pause and think about it. It actually comes from a 45-degree triangle. So if I make a 45-degree triangle like this, then this length here is 10. And we're told that our circle passes through both points and had a radius length of 5, which means that the center of the circle, HK, is going to be the midpoint of these two. Okay? So HK is simply going to be minus 2.5 root 2, 2.5 root 2. And so the equation of the circle is going to be x plus 2.5 root 2 squared plus y minus 2.5 root 2 squared equals 25. Okay? Now you could have plugged these values in here and you would have gotten the same answer, but it's just whenever you recognize root 2s and root 3s, that's when you can say, oh, it's 30 degrees, it's 60 degrees, it's 45 degrees. It's just, you get much, much quicker at these things, okay? So it's just worth knowing. Okay, now, finally, this is the most general circle of them all. So we did ones that were centered at 0, now we're centered at HK. This one is kind of just, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's a little bit of a free-for-all. The equation of the circle is x squared plus y squared plus 2gx plus 2fy plus c equals 0. The center is equal to minus g minus f, and the radius is equal to root g squared plus f squared minus c. Like this. And this is in the log tables. So are the other two, so you don't need to learn these off, okay? Basically, this is the most general one that there is. And remember, there's 3 things you don't know. You need to figure out what G is, you need to figure out what F is, and you need to figure out what C is. So in the question, you need 3 bits of information. You need 3 different equations to solve it, okay? So that's one big thing, all right? Okay. Yeah, so I'll just do one quick example. Yeah, I'll do one quick example and then I'll do points inside or outside the circle. Okay. So basically it says find the center and radius of x squared plus y squared minus 4x minus 6y minus 12 equals 0. So very first thing, what's f, g, and c? So first of all, 2gx is obviously equal to minus 4x. So I get that 2g is equal to minus 4, so g equals minus 2. Grand. I get that 2f is obviously equal to minus 6. So f equals minus 3. So the center is going to be minus g, so 2, and minus f, so 3. So the center is just 2, 3. Grand. And the radius, so obviously c here is equal to minus 12. So the radius, r, is the square root of g squared, which is going to be, so remember, it's not the center, it's always the g and the f, just in case you're confused. So it's going to be 4 plus 9 plus 12. And that's root 25. So r is equal to 5. Okay, so another way of writing this circle would be x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 25. So these are actually the exact same thing. Okay, so this formula that I've just shown up here, it's the exact same as one we were just using. It's just sometimes this one is a little bit easier. That's the only difference. Okay, but they are the same formula. All right, just written different ways. Okay, another thing that they might ask you is a point inside or outside the circle? This one is fairly self-explanatory, okay? So basically, they want to know, are the points 7, minus 5, 8, minus 6, inside, on, or outside the circle? Where the circle is going to be x minus 4 squared, plus y plus 1 squared equals 25. What you do is you simply plug these values into this equation. Okay? If the number you get is less than 25, it's inside the circle. So remember, the number that you get is kind of how far you are away from the center. So if you get 25, then you're exactly the radius away. If you get more than 25, then you're further away and therefore you're outside the circle. If you get less than 25, then you're inside the circle because you're, very short distance away from the center. Okay, so that's basically how it is. So plug in these numbers. So if I do 7 minus 4 squared plus minus 5 plus 1 squared, I get 3 squared plus 4 squared. That's equal to 25. And therefore that point is on the circle. Okay, now if we try 8 minus 6, so 8 minus 4 plus minus 6 plus 1, that's equal to 4 squared plus 5 squared, that's going to be 41, that's greater than 25, and therefore it is outside the circle. Okay, so yeah, hopefully that's fairly self-explanatory. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's kind of that. So now, the next thing to have a look at is kind of tangents. So I think the hardest part of this is the tangents part, okay? And that's the part that we're going on to now, okay? So basically, when lines intersect with a circle, so there's 3 options. A line and a circle can meet twice. They can meet, they can meet exactly once. Or they just mightn't meet at all. So those are the 3 options. So either twice, once, or none. And then they might ask you to say, okay, do they intersect? So one of the questions could be, find the coordinates of the points of intersection of the line 5x plus y equals 24, and x squared plus y squared minus 4x minus 2y minus 8 equals 0. Especially if you're an ordinary level student watching this, this question comes up the entire time in ordinary level leaving cert. It doesn't come up as much in higher level, but it's still a thing to go over just in case it does come up. Because it's one of the things that you, like, if I asked you to solve this now, you'd sit there and say, I have no idea. But once you do, once you do it once or twice, it's not too bad. You always look at the linear equation first. So the linear basically just means that there's no x squareds or y squareds. So you go to the linear, you write one of them in terms of the other. So y equals 24 minus 5x. You just write it like this, okay? And then you plug it into this equation and you solve it. It's kind of as simple as that. So x squared plus y squared, 24 minus 5x squared, minus 4x minus 2 times y, which is 24, minus 5x minus 8 equals 0. So it's x squared plus 25x minus 240x plus 576 minus 4x minus 48 plus 10x minus 8 equals 0. So x squareds. So we have, sorry, that should be an x squared. 25x squared. So we get 26x squared minus 240x. So minus 234x plus 576 minus 56, so it's plus 520 equals 0. So now we can divide everything by 26 here and get x squared minus 9x plus 20, I think. And then this factorizes into minus 5 and minus 4. So x either equals 5 or x equals 4. And then you go back up to your linear equation, this one, and you say, okay, so 5x plus y equals 24. So y equals 24 minus 5x. So if x equals 5, you get that y is going to be 24 minus 25, so minus 1. So 5 minus 1 is a point of intersection. And the other point of intersection then is when you plug in x equals 4. So then y equals 24 minus 20, so 4. So the other point of intersection is 4, 4. So in this case, it had 2 points of intersection. Okay? All right. So the next one that I'm going to do is yeah. Okay. I'm going to do one of these questions. So sometimes they might ask, oh, show that it's tangent or show that it doesn't intersect with the circle. Basically what they're asking is, there's the radius. Here's your line, which let's just say it does touch. The shortest distance from the radius to the line, from the center point to the line, has to be greater than or equal to the radius. Okay? For it to just be tangent or be outside. So if they ask this, show that they do not intersect, then the closest point or the perpendicular distance like this is obviously going to be bigger than r. If the line is off over here, then of course this distance here is greater than r. Okay, and if it's tangent, then it's equal to r. So in this case, it says, show that the line 3x minus 4y plus 10 equals 0 is tangent to the circle x squared plus y squared minus 10x equals 0. So just show that it's tangent. So first of all, what is the center? The center, remember, this is equal to plus 2gx. So g in this case is equal to minus 5 and f is equal to 0. So the center is minus g minus f, so it's 5, 0. So the center is 5, 0. Grand. And the radius is equal to the square root, in this case, of just g squared. So it's 5. So your radius is 5, the point is 5. So I need to show that the perpendicular distance from this line to this point is 5. If it's bigger than 5, it doesn't touch. If it's less than 5, it touches twice. Okay, so we'll have the same scenario as this. Okay, because obviously if I asked you what the distance from the center point to this line is, you'd say it's less than the radius. Of course, because it hits it twice. Here, it's exactly the radius. Here, it's greater than the radius. Okay? So I need to show that the perpendicular distance from that point to that line is exactly the radius, which is 5. Okay? So the distance, d, is this line evaluated at the point. So plug in 5, 0, you get 15 minus 0 plus 10. All over the square root of x squared. So the a squared plus b squared. So it's going to be 9 plus 16. So it's 25 over 5, which is indeed 5. And therefore you know that it touches exactly. Okay? So hopefully that's okay. Okay. All right. I think that's kind of okay. Yeah, I'll do 1 or 2 of these, and then I'll do tangents, and then that's almost it. Okay, so then let's do one of these ones. So that's fine. That question isn't too bad. Okay, that question is grand as well. I think I might skip that too. Okay, so tangents. So again, tangents are just if you have a line like this, then it just goes across the circle like this. So remember, this distance is always going to be the radius, the nearest point of approach. Now, this is when things get quite hard, all right? So it says, find the equations of the tangents from 1, 0. So what you have is, you have your point 1, 0, and you have a circle here. And basically, they're asking you to find the equation of the tangents. So here and here. Remembering, this is a radius, and this is a radius. So let's say it goes through the point 0, 1. So let's use our line formula. So y minus y1 is m into x minus x1. So in this case, it's going to be y minus mx plus m equals 0. That's the equation of the line. Where m, in this case, the slope is smaller, the slope is bigger. Grand. The equation of the circle is x squared plus y squared minus 12x minus 10y plus 51. So first of all, I need to know what the center is and I need to know what the radius is. So the center, again, basically, this is kind of just a quick one. If you put a minus in front of that and then divide it by 2, you get one part of the center. Do the same thing with the other, you get 5. So the center is just 6, 5. Okay? And then the radius is going to be the square root. This squared plus this squared, so 36 plus 25. And then it's going to be minus c, which is 51. So minus this thing here. So r is equal to, it's going to be root 10. Okay, so now I need the nearest point of this equation from this point to be root 10. So d is equal to root 10 is equal to the magnitude. If I plug 6, 5 into this equation, I'm going to get 5 minus 6m plus m all over the square root of 1 plus m squared. So cross multiply, I get root 10 plus 10m squared is equal to the magnitude of 5 minus 5m. So now, this is equal to 5 into the magnitude of 1 minus m. And now what I can do is I can simply square both sides. So I get 10 plus 10m squared is equal to 25 into m squared minus 2m plus 1. So remember, when you square a magnitude side, the magnitude goes away. Okay? So now I can divide everything by 5 and get 2 plus 2m squared is equal to 5m squared minus... sorry, I'm actually... yeah. So I'm gonna... no, never mind. Sorry, I'll just leave it the way it is. So it's going to be 2 plus 2m squared is equal to 5m squared minus 10m plus 5. So bring everything to one side. I get 5m squared minus 12m. Sorry, no I don't. I'm going to get 3. 3m squared minus 10 m squared plus 3 equals 0. This factorizes into minus 3 minus 1. So m either equals a third or m equals 3. So the equation of the line is y minus x over 3 plus a third, or it's going to be y minus 3 plus 3 equals 0. So those are the two different equations, okay? So just to be careful with that, because I think those are quite hard. All right, when you have it like this, you always do your lines generally. They'll give you the circle, you find the center, find the radius, remembering that this distance here, the perpendicular distance, is equal to the radius, and then just going from there. Okay. Okay, the next one is just if circles touch externally or internally. It's kind of obvious. If they touch externally, like this, then the distance between their centers, so C1 and C2, the distance between their centers is going to be R1 plus R2. If they touch internally, then the distance between their centers is going to be R2 minus R1. Because remember, this distance here is R1, and then this distance here is R2. So this distance that you're left here is going to be R2 minus R1. Okay, so that's all. So they might ask you, prove that the circles x squared plus y squared minus 14x minus 6y plus 49 equals 0, and x squared plus y squared minus 6x minus 12y plus 41 equals 0 touch externally. So I need to show that the distance between their centers is equal to R1 plus R2. So first of all, what are the centers? So the center of this one, divide this by minus 2, divide this by minus 2. This one, divide this by minus 2, divide this by minus 2. The radius then is a little bit more complicated. I'm just going to do it out just because. So it's going to be the square root of this squared plus this squared. So 49 plus 9 minus c, which is 49. So the radius is 3. Here it's going to be 9 plus 36 minus 41. So in this case, it's going to be 2. So in this case, I need to show that the distance between the centers is R1 plus R2, which is 5. So the distance between your centers, d squared, is going to be the square root of 7 minus 3 is 4. 3 minus 6 is minus 3. That is equal to 25. So d is equal to 5, which is indeed equal to R1 plus R2. And therefore they touch externally. Okay? All right, I might just do 2 more questions, and then I think I'll leave it for there. Okay? So now, this is back to simultaneous equations that I did before, but now it's going to be G, F, and C, okay? So this is when the G, F, C formula is very, very handy. It's basically, so you have your x squared plus y squared plus 2gx plus 2fy plus c equals 0. And they tell you that the point 1, 1, 2, 3, and 3, minus 1 are all on this circle. So you just plug them in. So if I plug 1, 1 in, I get 1 plus 2g plus 2f plus c equals 0. So I get 2g plus 2f plus c equals 2. So this is my first equation. Sorry, equals minus 2. Then if I plug in 2, 3, I'm going to get 4 plus 9 plus 4g plus 6f plus c equals 0. So I get 4g plus 6f plus c equals minus 13. And then if I plug in 3 and minus 1, I'm going to get 10. So it's going to be 6g minus 2f plus c is going to be 9, 10, so minus 10. Okay? Sorry, just the last one fast because it's just the same thing. You're just plugging in numbers and seeing what you get. So now, if I call this equation 1, 2, and 3, this will always happen. You'll always just have a plus c here, okay? In all the equations. So for this one, you just get rid of the c by minusing the equations off each other. So I'm just going to do equation 3 minus equation 1. So 6g minus 2g is 4g. Minus 2f is minus 4f. C minus c is 0. Minus 10 minus minus 2 is minus 10 plus 2. That's equal to minus 8. Okay, so that's another equation. And I can also do equation 2 minus equation 1. 4g minus 2g is 2g. 6f minus 2f is 4f. C minus c is 0. Minus 13 minus minus 2 is minus 11. Now I can add these two equations because the f's will cancel. I get 6g is going to be minus 19. All right. So I will get that g is equal to minus 19 over 6. If I plug it back up into the bottom equation to figure out what f is, I get 4f is going to be minus 11 plus 19 over 3. So f is going to come out to be minus 7 over 6. And then c, I'll plug it back up into the very top equation. So 2g plus 2f. So minus 19 over 3 minus 7 over 3 plus c equals minus 2. So c is going to be equal to 20 over 3. So the equation of the circle is going to be x squared plus y squared plus 2x times g, which is minus 19 over 6, plus 2y into f, which is minus 7 over 6, plus c, which is 20 over 3, equals 0. Okay? So that's that. So that's the equation, okay? I think I'll do one more, and then I think that'll be the end. So this one it says, find the equation of the circle K which passes through the points. So it passes through 1, 1, 2, minus 1, and whose center lies on 3x minus y equals 7. So First of all, the center is minus g minus f. And that means that minus g minus f satisfies this equation. Okay? So, first of all, let's plug this into the x squared plus y squared plus 2gx plus 2fy plus c equals 0. So plug in 1, 1. I'm going to get 2g plus 2f plus c equals minus 2. Plug in 2 minus 1. I'm going to get 4g minus 2f plus c equals, so it's going to be 4 plus 1 is 5, so minus 5. That's another equation. And then I can get this equation. If I plug this in, I'm going to get minus 3g plus f equals 7. So now these are my three equations. So 1, 2, 3. So equation 3 already doesn't have a c. So the best thing for me to do is probably just do equation 1 or do equation 2 minus equation 1. So 2 minus equation 1 is going to give me 2g minus 4f equals minus 3. Now I'm going to multiply the third equation by 4 and get minus 12g plus 4f equals 28, because now I can just add these two equations together. And I get minus 10g is going to be equal to 25. So g is going to be equal to minus 2.5. Okay. Sorry, I'm just checking to see if that's actually right. I hope it is. Yep, it is. So then if I plug it back in to figure out what f is, I can say, well, I know that 2g, that's going to be minus 5, minus 4f equals minus 3. So I'm plugging it back up into this equation. I get minus 4f is 2, so f is going to be minus a half. Okay, and then you can plug them both back into this equation. You'll figure out that c equals 4, and so the equation is going to be x squared plus y squared plus 2x into g, which is minus 2.5, plus 2y into f, which is minus 0.5, plus c, which is 4, equals 0. Like so. Okay. Yeah, I think that's sufficient. Okay. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there for today and for these videos for a while anyways. I might start doing exam papers while I'm waiting to go back to college, but for now I think that's enough. Okay, so thanks so much for watching any or all of these videos. I really appreciate it. Any feedback would go a long way. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, and I think I'm signing off. I'll talk to you. Bye.